So here we are in Noloko, and I'm going to generate a pick list, press confirm, and the system now will begin to update in front of my eyes in real time without the need for me to press refresh or anything else. And here's my document that I've just requested. Hey everybody, Alex here, and today we've got another Noloko demo where we're going to be exploring how to use GraphQL to push real-time updates to the front end that the users see. First of all, we're going to take a look at GraphQL, then we're going to take a look at some of the changes that we need to do in Noloko in order to trigger the process efficiently and quickly. The third thing that we need to take a look at is also some minor changes to our pre-existing automation that we've covered in another video, just making it a little bit simpler, basically. So let's get started. Okay, so let's get started with GraphQL. So first of all, we need to go into data, or actually no, let's go into settings. And the first thing we need to do is actually grab our API key. We need the app API key, so make sure that you copy this. Next step that we need to do is go to this web address, https://api-playground.noloko.io, then / and then we need to put our project name. So in this case, this is my CRM, and press enter. The next thing that you'll see is something like this. Can already basically work, but let's just clear all of this stuff. And what we need to do, if we try and execute this query, it will work, but in your case, the system will probably not remember, or rather not know, your API key. So go in here and type in your API key, or rather just paste your API key in, press OK, and then your query should run. Now let's construct a query. In my mind, there's really four things to a query. We can begin with a very simple query. For instance, there's really like 4 ingredients to it in most cases. In some cases, there's 3. For example, let's say we want to generate a GraphQL query that will give us our list of delivery dispatch records. They also exist, of course, in Airtable, but we are in Noloko. But let's say I just want to generate this one row that exists there. So how do we write that query? Super simple. Let's clear all of this out and let's begin. First thing that we need to do is type in query space. Then jump here into queries and search for your table. In my case, it has to do something with, I think it's dispatch or delivery. Yeah, and I want the collection. So I'm just gonna jump in here and just copy this, Control C, and type in here, Airtable Management Collection. Then open up a pair of curly brackets. Then press enter. Paste that again. Another set of curly brackets. Another enter. And now you can say, let's say total count. So this is going to give you the total amount of records within that query. Then if you want some results, you can type in edges and then open up a pair of curly brackets again. And then you need to type in node and then another pair of curly brackets. And then here you can finally start asking for a response. Now, you remember I was telling you that I have typically 4 ingredients to a query, whether we're just querying data or mutating it. So the first ingredient is this first part here, which is where we would typically define our variables. In other words, let me show you one example that I've got prepared here. Well, we're going to take a look at this query in a sec, where we're defining our variables in the sense of my variable is of this type. My variable is of a type of ID with an exclamation mark. My variable is a type of string. My variable is a type of upload, and so forth. That's the first ingredient that you need. You need to define what type of variables you're dealing with. Next, you need to match the actual fields that you have in your schema, in your GraphQL schema for that particular table and that particular action, like update Airtable delivery management, that contains its own schema basically, like this. And you need to match the field from that schema ID to your variable ID. You can tell variables by them having a $sign in front of them, and typically they look green. Next, the third ingredient that you need is, well, the response. Like, what do you want the system to ping back if it runs successfully? And you can just here just define a bunch of fields that you want it to return. The fourth and not least ingredient is your actual variables, where you can input your variables just like you have here. So ID, like so, comma separated, as you see here. And we're going to take a look at this now in a second. So in this case, we still have these 4 ingredients, but they're just not present because we don't need them as much. So if I run this query, you can either press this play button or you can just press Control Enter and that will run it again. So if I want to see more, let's say pick list notes, for instance, there is a pick list note called Hello World right here. So if I jump here and say, hi, my name is Alex, and I rerun this query, it'll say, hi, my name is Alex, which is cool. Now, this is just a simple query, right? We might want to elaborate on this, and we can also create mutations. In other words, change things within the system. So the process is basically the same, only that we change our action. We say mutation instead of query, and yeah, then just follow exactly what the schema arguments look like over here. So this is kind of like a very quick introduction to how to use this. So feel free to experiment a lot with this. The next thing that we need to take a look at, I believe, is some of the changes that we need to do in Noloko in order to make the trigger work effectively. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so we need to make a few changes to our Noloko instance in order to make this work smoothly. We want the experience to be close to real time. And one particular area that we need to make a change is because we're going to be uploading a file, and this is a special thing considering how GraphQL works and so forth. We need to go into our database, into data, and in delivery dispatch management, which is my table, I need to add a new Noloko upload field. I've already added it previously, but the way to do it is just press here plus and call this something like PDF upload. Okay, then choose field type, file upload, do not allow for multiple files, and then just press add field. Now that the field has been added, you can use it in your schema. Let's take a look. Now, I'm not going to use it for now because I already have a field. So that's one thing to take into consideration. The next thing to take into consideration is the triggering of the whole process of generation. So the triggering starts with an action button. I've just gone into edit mode, click on an action button, and I've created a new action button here called generate pick list. Here it is. And it has just basic settings here of success, modal, generate a picking list. There's no notifications, and there's just basic visibility against it. It does two things. First of all, it cleans up the pick list generation status latest field here. So it passes a hidden value of starting up. So as soon as I press this button, whatever I've got in here, it will just be replaced with starting up, because I want the user to know that something's happening, that things are in motion. Next, I want to clean my status, this top bar over here. And again, I'm passing a hidden value of empty value into this field so that this also resets and there's yet another visual cue for the user to kind of see like, oh, something has changed. Now, the next action is to run an on-demand workflow, which is called trigger pick list generation. So let's take a look at that very quickly. I'm going to go in my workflows and I've created a new workflow here. You can do that by pressing this plus button, and let me just showcase it. So as soon as you press plus button, you need to choose your table and you can give this a name, whatever you want, then choose a trigger. And in my case, I want an on-demand triggered by an action button trigger. And then as an action, I want to trigger a webhook. So I've already done this particular workflow and it's already here. It's turned on and I've added my webhook URL here, which is based on make.com, which is right here. Now, one important note for this is that as soon as you turn this on and you set it up, make sure that you publish your app. There's been a few times where I forgot to do that, and sadly, I was stuck for a little bit of time thinking, what is going on? Why is this not working? And it was just a simple mission of, not publishing. So yeah, make sure you publish. Back into our app, once you're in your button, don't forget to add that final part where you want to run an on-demand workflow and which record, this record, and in your list of workflows, you should see that pick list generation workflow. Press done and out of edit mode. That's basically it in terms of Noloko. There's not much else that you need to do. Finally, I think now it's time to take a look at what's happening in Make and see how the whole process works all together. Okay, so here we are in Make. This is a scenario that is running this whole process. It is incredibly similar to the scenario that we had created in one of my previous demos. So make sure you check that out where I go in detail as to how all of this works. For now, the main changes really are these points over here where we have an update, a record here, 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 and here. Basically, I've gotten rid of these 1, 2, 3 modules, and I've just left one module at the end that updates Noloko, plus another one that actually updates Airtable a little bit, but that's neither here nor there. It's just there for storage purposes of the files. So let's take a look. Essentially, we have our webhook that receives data from Noloko as soon as it comes through, with all the specific stuff that is within that particular record. All we have to do is take our mutation record, essentially, and what I'm doing here is the most important thing. As soon as I'm generating a document, I need to get a file. I need to use get a file HTTP module and map that get file that I'm getting from generate in here. The next thing is that I need to create yet another request, but this is just a basic HTTP request, make a request, this one. And this is how you need to set this up. In the URL, you need to put this particular URL and then just substitute the final part with your portal prefix. The method is post. The authorization, well, the header, the first header is called authorization. And then you need to add the word bearer, a space, right? And then here you need to paste your API key. I've already pasted mine. Make sure you paste it there. Make sure there's no spare spaces or anything like that. It should just be bearer, space, and then the key. Then you need to use body type multipart form data. And this is only for the cases where we need to update files. I'm going to show you another method where if you're just updating text and there's no file uploads involved, it's a slightly different process. Now, in the case that you don't need to upload a file and your mutation is fairly straightforward, you just need to write the query without the upload of the file and make a subtle change in make. So let's build that together. I've got my mutation. I'm just going to start working on my first ingredient. The first ingredient, as we said, is defining what type of variables you're going to be working with. So let's go. Here I'm going to say that, first of all, I need my ID. So my variable ID is the type, as I can see here, ID. Perfect. Then my next variable that I want to update, and in this case it's picklist generation latest status latest. There you go. That one is type of string. Perfect. I'm done. Next, I need to open up these curly brackets and paste my table again, or rather kind of like my operation. Perfect. Open up another set of round and curly brackets. And in the round brackets, now I'm going to define my actual fields and what the equivalent variable is for that field. So the field of ID is my variable ID. My field of picklist generation status latest, right? Its variable is picklist generation latest status. Perfect. Then the third ingredient is, well, what do you want to get out of it if it runs perfectly? So I want the ID, the UUID, the picklist notes, and let's say the picklist generation latest status latest. There we go. Cool. Then fourth and final ingredient is the variable itself, or the variable values. First of all, ID. If you simply open up your curly brackets, press enter, and you type I and then enter, type I and then enter, the playground will pre-fill that variable, and then because this is an ID, it's always going to be a number, and we know that our one record that we have has an ID of 4. We're going to input that there. Then my next variable is, and I'm just going to type in this and then start typing pick. I just typed P and it filled everything in for me. And this is a string, so I can type in whatever. So hi world. Okay, and that's it. Now I can run this. Here's what will happen in picklist generation latest status. Oh, I must be logged in. So I need to input my API token for this. And now it's working. If I jump here and refresh this, it should have worked. Well, has it? Yes, hi world. Excellent. You might be asking, okay, great, this works here in the playground, but how do I actually use that in make? Here we go. All you have to do is copy this to clipboard, open up make. Again, just what I would do, I would just copy one of those modules as we have had before. And just in this case, the only thing that we really need to do to set this up, this whole first part remains the same. The body becomes raw, the content type becomes JSON, and then here you can just paste the request. So I'm just going to do that again. Copy to clipboard and then paste the raw request. Here you can substitute your ID for some dynamic variable. You can also change the hard-coded latest status with something more dynamic if you wish. But essentially that's what you need to do if you just want to do a basic update, a real-time update of Noloko. So yeah, let's get back to what we were working on. Let's take a look at this. So you might be seeing this and feeling a little bit scared, but it's actually not very scary at all. What we need to do is we need to just jump into our query here that we have built. And let me just very quickly explain how I'm doing this whole thing. First and foremost, I need to have in my mutation, I'm actually using my update Airtable delivery management, which is my delivery management table. It's called delivery management dispatch. Where am I? Here. I need to say, I'm actually first defining my variables, which was our first ingredient. So my ID has the type of ID with an exclamation mark, and I've defined that. Picklist generation status latest has the type of string, and so forth. Picklist Noloko PDF status, that's it. Next, I need to now match my real fields, my purple fields, with their variable equivalents, which are right here. I typically make sure that they are named exactly the same so that it's very easy to match. It's just a copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. So it's quite easy if you're doing it like that. Then finally, we have our fields that I want the system to generate. At the end, as a response, At the end, we have our query variables where I'm just defining some variables, some basic variables. I'm not trying here to be exactly perfect. I'm just inputting some dummy data. And the last type over here, status, is actually a single select. So you can't just put anything you want in there. You have to follow. So if you see here, I'm in status and I've got this like weird type. So if you click on that, you only get 2 values, and that's because it's a single select. So you have to copy paste that value exactly as you want it in there. You can't just paste anything you want because otherwise the query will fail. So what happens next? You need to press this button, copy to clipboard. If this comes up red or like pinkish, let me see if I can make a mistake on purpose. There you go. There you go. You see how it comes up in pinkish? It means that you've done something wrong and the query will fail. And clearly I've just added a extra comma here, but if I remove it, now as soon as I press it, it's gray, it's all cool. We're gonna take that and we're gonna jump into our module here in make. So yeah, multi-part form data. The first field has a field type of text. The key is operations, okay? And then we need to just paste what we copied. And as you can see here, I've already mapped my real ID to my ID that comes from the webhook. Picklist Noloko PDF. Yes, it says null, but you actually have to put it in a square bracket. Then in my picklist generation status latest, as you see, I've just copy pasted it from another module, but it's just basic texts, right? It's some asterisks, the word complete, an emoji, and then just now generated by make. And that's just this string over here from this quote to that quote. Simple. And then the status generated remains hard-coded as is. So that's all really in terms of the big part of GraphQL. Next, we have to continue because we are also uploading a file, right? So here we have text. The item 2 is text. The key is map. And then you have to put this sort of value. You have to create like a pair. So you're giving a variable, let's just call this Z1. You can call this whatever you want, but stick to something. So Z1, then colon, and then we have this like a array-ish type of thing where we defining the variable. We basically need to say, we need to open up a string and then type in variables and then dereference that to picklist Noloko PDF, which is exactly the file, right? It's the file, but that's also the variable name that we have in our variables. Finally, last but not least, we have the third item type, which needs to be called, which is type of file. Then the key is Z1 because we gave that variable over there. Then press map, and then we have to map the data that we've just acquired from module 45, and then the file name from module 38. It should include like the suffix. So in this particular case, you need to be very careful because this needs to have the PDF. So make sure that you choose the correct file name. I think there's like 2. Yeah, and it can be very confusing. So there's file name with a space, but without the PDF, and there's one file name without a space that contains the full file name, including the .pdf extension, which is really important to have in this case. Yeah, So that is basically it in terms of make. Let me now run the whole thing so that you can see how this works. Let's jump back into our record here. You can see everything's now cleared. There's no draft. There's a pixlib PDF here stored, but whatever. Clear everything. And now I'm just going to generate the pick list. We're going to also set this to kind of like wait for us. So now it's waiting for the webhook to hit. Generate pick list, confirm. You can see it's starting up. This is now running. We just updated a text field. A single select has been updated, and we've uploaded a file. Hi, my name is Alex. And you can repeat this as much as you need. And I am working Noloko. Let's generate this again. And you can see again, it has cleared everything because our button clears everything. And it starts, well, again, it adds this hard-coded message here starting up. And now it has finished it. And you can see that my document has now changed as well. So yeah, that is it, guys. Let me know your thoughts on this. And yeah, looking forward to catching up with you in the next one. Cheers.